Hey guys, welcome back. Can you believe this is episode 50? Because I certainly can't. We have done so much in those episodes, and that's not even counting the stuff I did before this series started, and I am so proud of all of it. And I've been trying to think of the best way to properly celebrate this milestone, and for a while I was thinking of doing a bit of a general world tour just to showcase and look around everything, but that just feels a little generic, and if you've been watching the series, it wouldn't really give you anything particularly new. So instead, I thought it might be nice to do a slight twist, and instead I'm going to show you my top 5 favourite views around my world. There are many places all over where I just love to stand and look at what we've built, and we never really get to just stand and look in this series because I'm always off building something new or exploring somewhere, so I thought it would be nice to just slow down for a little bit and I can show you some of my personal favourite places. So let's take a little bit of a break and look at some lovely sights. And we're starting off with probably our least elaborate view, but it is still one of my absolute favourites. This farm area has been my longest running project in this world, from my very first build of my home behind me, to these greenhouses, and from the lighthouse iron farm in the very back to my first ever custom trees. This whole area has seen a lot of my development in Minecraft and is very dear to me. And this specific view is so lovely because you can just see so much of this area, with the greenhouses in a row and even the little pig pen and creeper farm silo in the background. Like I said, it's definitely not my best build or most elaborate setting, but it's incredibly special to me and I do absolutely love it. Our next view is another place on my home island, but one we don't really get to see all that often because it's a little out of the way, and I actually made this whole place before I started this series. But it's also one of the areas that made me want to start making these videos, because as I was building it, I realised I would have loved to have a record of making it. And overall, I just love this place. In many ways, it does feel quite basic. There's really only amethyst blocks here. I didn't try and do any gradients or variation or anything fancy like that. But honestly, I think that's part of the charm. It's just a giant amethyst geode, but somehow it just works for me. Also, my absolute favourite bit of this is the little bridge and the glass fog effect below it. This was my first time using the fog effect and it just looks so good. Especially with the clusters below it, it really feels like it's just fading away or filled with some kind of purple ooze, which is such a vibe. Our third view is of our flower forest. Now, unfortunately, this project is so big it doesn't easily fit into a single view, but this is probably my favourite shot of this project. And I have to say, the best bit about this project isn't something that I designed, it's inherent in the code of Minecraft, and that's the wonderful patterns that the flowers in a flower forest make. Now obviously I spent countless hours bone mealing the ground to get all of the flowers to grow and make sure they're all in the right place, but really all credit has to go to Mojang for this because they really didn't have to make the flower forest this beautiful. I'm sure they could have just made the flowers generate in blocks or randomly or anything really, but instead they made this and I just love it. Of course, I do also love the giant pixel art flowers, which I'm pretty sure were also my first attempt at pixel art, which was very fun to play around with, even if it definitely isn't my forte. But this flower forest project was the first one we really tackled in this series, because I'd been bone mealing for absolutely ages, and I wanted to make sure I recorded the very last bit so I could properly remember it. And overall, this is just such a lovely place to come and smell the roses. I had to. You can't tell me you wouldn't have made that joke as well. Our fourth view is of course of our end project, and this view from on top of the library really highlights many of my favourite elements in this hub. You get a lovely view of the mushroom in the middle, which I am still incredibly fond of, although getting that amount of copper would be so much easier if I was building this now thanks to the trial chambers, but I'm sure all the mining was character building or something. And then you also get a great view of the tree in the market, as well as some of the planets and galaxies in the sky all around, which are still some of my favourite things I've ever done. It's completely over the top, of course, but the atmosphere they add is definitely worth the time and effort I invested into them. I do wish there was an angle where you could see this whole project because I love all of it so much, but this view is so nice. And I also love how you can just stand here and watch the villagers wandering around the market and along the promenade, and it all just feels so alive when I stand up here, which is possibly my favourite thing about this view. And by standing up here, the villagers can't keep getting in the way of my recording, which they oh so love to do. And my final top favourite view is of our current swamp project, and the top of the portal we built last episode is actually a brilliant vantage point to see both sides of the island. But I'm currently slightly more in love with the witch side because it just feels slightly more complete. Obviously there's more work to do on both sides, but with the morning tower in place, this side just feels a little bit fuller. And not only do I love this view, but I also find it very motivating because as I stand here, I can see all the places where I want to do work. I see the torches and I want to make them hidden, I see the gap down the right side and want to build some little flower beds or something, I see the space on the hill on the left side and wonder what we can put there so it feels less empty and more vibrant. Sometimes just standing in a project you're currently working on and slowly looking around and focusing on different areas is exactly what you need to get excited about a project, and little things spark ideas which slowly build and build until suddenly you've got a fully detailed island in front of you. Or at least, we'll get there. And there are so many more places I could show and talk about because I find reasons to love pretty much every view of this world, even if it's not as technically good or not as interesting or whatever. I'm sure you're all the same with your Minecraft worlds, but there's always a memory or a feeling associated with the builds which just make everything feel special in their own way. Even some of the areas we haven't developed at all feel special because I've flown over them time and time again, or there's some piece of generation that you use as a landmark to know you're flying in the right direction. God, I know it is so sappy, but boy do I love this game. But before we finish, I do want to give 5 very quick honourable mentions or runners-up for views which I love but didn't quite make it to the list. The first is this skulk pit, which doubles as a very small chorus fruit farm, but I mostly just love the circle of statues here with their different poses. I had so much fun building these. The next is our sniffer farm, which looks up at the Cherry Blossom Hill, which is just a very nice little aesthetic area, and I love standing here and watching the cherry blossoms slowly fall. Then we have our underground cave, and I love this whole area, but there's something about looking through the dripstone and seeing the mine and the lush cave and mushrooms at the end, which is just so lovely. Next is the little island just off our end project, and my favourite thing about this is the little armour stands. They just bring a bit of character which I really, really love. Especially the little guy peeking around the corner. Don't tell the others, but he's my favourite. And finally, the view I have definitely seen the most in this world and is definitely deserving of an honourable mention is from the end of my little pier outside my house. Whether I'm fishing or just watching the world go by, this view more than any other feels like home in this world, and I think it's the perfect place to leave this episode. And I just quickly want to say thank you to all of you for watching and enjoying this series. I have so much fun making it, and episode 50 is wild, and I can't wait to see what the next 50 have in store, and I hope you guys are just as excited as I am. I have a pretty fun idea for next episode for the next thing I want to tackle in the Swamp project, so I am very much looking forward to that. But until then, thank you guys for watching, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!